Good afternoon, everyone. A Friday edition of On Cue coming at you live in the confines of the SR 1029 FM, the Game Studios, powered by Coastal Sports Digital Network, Coast to Coast Radio, on the Odyssey app as well. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We've got about an hour or so to play with before I have to count sheep before I start my overnights doing Thailand basketball, little Warriors League. I always say this: if you guys are up at 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, I encourage you to lock in with me as we talk and call some hoops games overseas. But be that as it may, a What the Frig Friday edition of On Cue. And first and foremost, get social with me. Very easy to do on XIG at Rich Q on Q, TikTok, Rich Q on a mic. We're on Kicks, Rumble, YouTube. Also, as I said, multiple platforms, millions as well. So just a big time thank you on this What the Frig Friday edition of On Q. You guys have been fantastic, locking me in, hanging with me, whether we do the rapid hour, whether we do 2+ hours, Monday to Friday, sometimes on the weekends. You guys are subscribing to the YouTube channel. You're engaging, you're commenting, you're sharing, and I love it. And certainly appreciate you guys helping us grow. The fact that I've been able to take this radio audience I've had kind of with me for the last 20+ years and now on multiple platforms, it's just wonderful. And again, we don't always agree, and that's okay. But I definitely appreciate everyone tuning in as you guys typically do. So what made you say, what the frig, on this Friday? What made you say, what the frig, on this Friday? Now, was it the Minnesota Vikings firing their GM? Was it the Philadelphia Eagles finally landing a friggin' offensive coordinator? Was it the Achos comment with Sanders? Was it Jim Schwartz storming off? We'll get into that as well. I also would like to know, as we are pretty much the weekend, we are a week away from the Super Bowl. I've got two questions I want to throw at you guys on this Friday. Two. First question is, who is the real NFL MVP? That's number one, because there seems to be much debate when it comes to two quarterbacks. Now, again, listen, ultimately, I have a feeling I know who's going to win the award, but I want to get into that a little bit. And it's Friday. We're a week away from the Super Bowl. Folks, there is no friggin' buzz with this Super Bowl. There is no buzz with this Super Bowl. So we'll dive into that as well. But I mentioned, a couple of little trending, a little hot topics right now. How about the Vikings? The Vikings turn around and they fired, which I don't think is a big shock like a lot of people are making it out to do, but they fired Adofo-Mensah, their GM, KAM, as I like to call him. He's out after 4 seasons. And listen, I don't know if this is as shocking as a lot of people believe, because all you have to do is look at what's going on in Seattle. I mean, how about this? Sam Darnold, slinging Sammy friggin' Darnold, who is on the cusp of winning a Super Bowl, basically just got a GM fired because Minnesota elected not to re-sign him. And they have a ridiculous amount of egg on their face. They decided to go in the direction of J.J. McCarthy, and let's call it for what it is. It has not worked out. It hasn't. I mean, you send this guy to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl, and then a month later, you can him. And if Carson Wentz doesn't get hurt, you can make an argument, a strong argument, that Minnesota, which was a game on the outside looking in, they could have made the playoffs. And the problem is, you've got a GM who had 3 winning seasons in 4 years, okay? That's not bad. You're talking about a .632 winning percentage, which was tied 5th for best in the NFL. But they're 0-2 in the postseason. And, the drafts have not been there. And I think you got to start to look at, when you miss on a quarterback, you are in trouble. And J.J. McCarthy was a reach. He was a reach, and he gets hurt. Sam Darnold comes in, resurrects his career, wins 14 games with Minnesota, played like an all-pro in the MVP conversation, comeback player of the year conversation, and then you elect to not sign him. You elect to not give him the money. You elect to basically just say, hey, man, we'll be okay without Slinging Sammy because we got J.J. McCarthy, who has not lived up to the hype. So he's out in Minnesota. You got the Philadelphia Eagles finally landing not only an offensive coordinator, which I actually like this move, to be quite honest with you. I like this move, and I like the move that the Philadelphia Eagles brought in as far as their passing game coordinator. They hired, okay, first of all, so here you go. They got Sean Mannion, right, as your offensive coordinator. He comes over from the Green Bay Packers. He's a young guy. He's a rising star, as everyone's kind of deeming. And now, there's going to be critics. There's going to be the contrarian. And oh, by the way, you get some offensive coordinator help when you hire Josh Grizzard as your passing game coordinator. So now he's going to join Mannion to lead this Philadelphia offense. So there's a couple schools of thought with this. You can look at it and you can say, why are you going this route? Why are you going this route? You're hiring a guy that's unproven. This is utterly ridiculous. It's going to fall flat on my face one more time. And I get that. That's the contrarian. That's the, I don't want to look at the glass half full Philadelphia Eagle fan, or in some case, some of the beat writers. Let's just call it for what it is. Because some of these guys are friggin' clowns and they just feel like pissing on whatever they can piss on because that's what they do. But I'll say this, as much as we question some of these hires around the league, and you like to think the Philadelphia Eagles know exactly what they're doing. And I don't like to pinpoint guys, but I don't know if this is trolling, but you have Elliott Shore-Parks, who tweets out, I can't believe the Eagles hired a 33-year-old with 2 years of coaching experience, zero experience calling plays to take over this job in this moment in the city. I don't know if that's a troll job. I really don't, nor do I care, because some of these guys are insufferable. Some of these guys are just asshats. They really are, that cover these teams. But you got a young guy who's going to come in. He's going to be creative. He's going to want to be creative. And this is where Nick Sirianni has to be a little submissive. This is where Nick Sirianni has to figure out a way to kind of just, again, turn around and just submit and say, I'm going to allow him to come in. I am going to allow him to call the plays. I'm going to give him carte blanche when it comes to this offense. And I think that's the smart play. I really do. I think it's the smart play. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking out there, especially the Eagles fans. It's probably a surprise you went with a coach with a total of 2 years of coaching experience, no prior experience as an offensive coordinator. Okay. But all we ever hear from any fan base when they're looking to go in a different direction is you got to find that young, sexy, innovative coach, right? Now, they feel they have found the guys and/or guys teamed up with Nick Sirianni in this coaching staff, along with these weapons, where I can change an offense that finished in the bottom 15 in every major offensive category. And again, I feel the negative is, well, why are you plucking guys we never heard of, right? Why are you doing that? Why are you plucking guys off the street, no experience? We went down this road. We know how it ends. So it's like, all right, we're thinking it, but now the quiet part out loud. No one's saying it's not about having an opportunity, deserves chances. But you also went this route before the last several times, and it did not work out. So maybe you sit there and say, at this point of Jalen Hurts' career, who's done pretty damn good with all these offensive coordinators coming in, give him a little stability, give him a little track record, give him a guy that's got a little equity, a little change in the jar, and experience. And it's fair to question a move. It is. Because Nick Sirianni has not had the best track record when you're talking about first-time play callers. And I get it. Johnson, Patullo, they came from an Eagles system, right? And it's about running the friggin' football. Now you've got a guy that's bringing in a different set of eyes, a different offensive mindset. And, what are you going to do to challenge this offense, to switch things up, to get this offensive gear heading in the next season in a stacked NFC, a much better NFC East? And those are all valid concerns. Those are all valid questions that Eagles fans should want to know the answers to. And you can throw to me, well, they hired a guy back in 99 with pretty much no experience, Andy Reid, and how did he turn out? Hey, listen, I'm not sitting here telling you. I came on the air a couple minutes ago and I said, I like the moves. I like the moves now because this is going to force Nick Sirianni to be a little more submissive, and he's got to delegate, but he also has confidence in these hires. Where the flip side, some Eagles fans will look at this move and say, well, wait, we went down this road before and it didn't work out. Okay, well, who knows how much input Nick Sirianni had in this move. So we'll get your thoughts on that. I already mentioned the GM of the Vikings out, and I threw out a couple questions. And I'm going to piggyback to what I said about the Eagles in a second. Super Bowl, we're about a week out, zero buzz. We'll get into the MVP. I want to get to some comments. The other point I wanted to make regarding this hire is that it's a risky move because you're hiring a guy with only 2 years of coaching experience. And the only time he's ever called plays from my research, I think, was at the East-West Shrine game. He was an offensive assistant with the Packers in 2024. Then he was promoted to quarterbacks coach this past season. Now, Glenn Irby, who covers the Eagles and the Ravens, is going to join me on Monday's show. He does a fantastic job because I want to get into Baltimore too. But with this hire right now, it's risky because Sirianni, I think now you're looking at this and you're saying, now there's a little bit of a, bullseye on my back, right? I'm in a tricky spot, a little bit of a bullseye, risk to reward. What if it doesn't work out? So I guess you have to almost say to yourself, did I indirectly put myself in the line of fire? Which is kind of crazy to say because if I'm a head coach and I've won 69, 70% of my games, oh, by the way, 6-4 in the postseason, oh, by the way, I appeared in 2 Super Bowls, oh, by the way, I hoisted a Lombardi trophy, I would be hard-pressed to say my ass is on the line. But I think in this regard, yeah, I think there might be some issues. I think there might be, I'm backing myself in a corner. I better friggin' succeed. I better. All right, 28 past 4 o'clock hour. Let's get to some football thoughts first, and then we'll go around the world of sports on this Friday edition, my man. New headphones, who dis, a.k.a. He-12 Man, a.k.a. Heisman, a.k.a. Steeler Nation, a.k.a. Duval, also known as Vince, football-wise, says, heard Fowler talking about the hire for the Eagles today, said they were looking for a specific coaching style and person. Not sure if that's a sign or true, but don't hate to hire. I'm sorry. Not sure if that's spin or true, but don't hate to hire. I don't know. I can only go by, again, from those that I've already spoken to, they like to hire. They said he's a young guy. He's innovative. And I came on the air. I wasn't demonstrative. I literally said, I like the move. And I think the sneaker move is bringing in the passing coordinator from the Bucs, to be quite honest with you. I think that's a sneakier move. Look, sometimes you want to go in a different direction. All I'm saying is because Sirianni, it's his hire at the end of the day. He is the head coach. The GM will sign off on it. The owner signs off on it. But if it doesn't work out, again, then this move basically puts Nick Sirianni on the hot seat, especially if it does not work out, because that'll be the third straight offensive coordinator, 3 straight years, out, out, out. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I can go by and give you the whole Andy Reid back in the day. Here we go. Right? Here we go. Mike in Ohio chimes in. Q, I know you brought this up the other day, but did you hear the reports about Jim Schwartz storming off and basically saying the hell with this? I've got thoughts on Schwartz for my Cleveland audience. I've got some thoughts on that. And I'll get to it on the other side. I know Vince had a question about that. Sal, who's a Baltimore fan, actually brought that up on yesterday's show. Mike in Ohio mentioned it. I want to get into that a little bit because and I'm glad that we're going to have Glenn Irby on Monday, who covers the Eagles and the Ravens, because the fact that, the Ravens hire Minter, and then the Giants were looking at Monken, and he takes the Cleveland job. There's a dynamic in that I want to share with you guys and get your thoughts on that as well. All right, 25 past 4 o'clock hour, a Football Friday edition, Super Bowl next weekend. But I threw out 2 questions. Is it me? No buzz in this game. No buzz. And who is the NFL MVP? State your case. Who is it? Because obviously we're throwing out 2 names right there. Drake May and Matthew Stafford. But I want to know who is the real, genuine NFL MVP. And I got some thoughts on that as well. Don't forget to lock it in on X, Rumble, TikTok, the YouTube channel, and of course, SR 1029 FM The Game. We're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, 3 Brooks Bourbon, and Get Ready with Tea. And as I mentioned, if you cannot sleep tonight, if you can't, or if you're out and about, a little smoking and joking, and I hope you don't do that while you're driving, but if you're out and about having a little hot toddy, having a little fresh, fresh roasted coffee, a little pop, and you can't sleep around 1 o'clock, lock me into Warriors, Thailand, and overseas. We'll get you through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. We will get you through. I got you covered. All right. Got a lot of comments coming in. Keep it locked in. As I mentioned, we got about 40 to play with. Take you a little past 5 o'clock hour on this Friday edition. And I want to rip through all these comments. You guys are fantastic. If you like the channel and you're liking the content, do me a favor, share it, comment, subscribe to your friends as well. All right, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get into this Browns mess as well, get into a little more of the Super Bowl, Eagles hire, and a lot of movement going on right now in the NFL. Very busy time. So we'll break it all down. Coming back in about 30. All right, welcome back, everyone. 4:30 on a Friday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here again. We're powered by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports. 2 locations: Deptford, Mount Laurel, 1450 Clements Bridge Road. Vince chimes in. Browns released a video of Sanders meeting Monken. He admitted he wanted to draft Sanders to the Ravens. You think they hired him over Schwartz because of it? No. The other gentleman, the young kid, no. The Schwartz thing is pretty. I'm going to tell you what happened. This is what I think. The Schwartz debacle in Cleveland. All right, so you're Jim Schwartz, and you basically have done a hell of a job with the Browns on the defensive side of the ball, right? Right? You've done a hell of a job. And we know Jim Schwartz is kind of a volatile guy. Jim Schwartz has a strong personality. So for the last couple of seasons, you're a defensive coordinator, and you've kept that franchise competitive on the defensive side of the ball. You've kept it in check. Everyone knows you in the building. You're well respected. Look at the breakout year that some of these players have had. Look at the career year of Myles Garrett, the sack record, the whole 9 yards. Here we go. We also know you have coaching experience as a head coach. We already seen it. We know it. Fine. You had your cup of coffee a couple seasons with Detroit, and you had your best season in 2011. So your body of work is there. Now, if you're Jim Schwartz, and a month or two ago, you're sitting there, you're walking around the building in Cleveland, and you're preparing yourself mentally. You're saying to yourself, this gig is mine. I have it. There's no way I'm not going to be the head coach. And then what happens? Ownership, GM, and I believe this is a Barry move. Okay? This is an Andrew Barry move. They decide to completely go in a different direction. A completely different direction. And now we're like, well, wait, we can take a guy who's got familiarity with this division, okay? And we know he can do wonders with whoever the hell is going to be the quarterback. And it might be Shedeur Sanders. Who the hell knows? Who knows, right? And the whole, hey, we wanted to draft you. Sure, it's all great for the camera and all that other stuff. That's all smoke and mirrors right now. You can't unring the bell. So Schwartz sees this. He knows this. They're going a different direction. And even though I'm under contract, I'm thinking to myself, the hell with this. I'm done. I'm 60-something years old. No, I don't need this shit anymore. Not happening. I basically kept you guys relevant defensively for 2 seasons, and I'm not going to cut a crack here. And that's when Jim Schwartz pretty much, again, got pissed off. Think about that. They got pissed off. And he, was dropping F-bombs. I was reading the reports. He was like, the hell with this. So now you bring in Monken, who did a hell of a job, 2+ seasons. You already had an all-pro, you had an MVP, Lamar Jackson. Now he's got an opportunity to work with Shedeur Sanders, who I told you yesterday, if anything, you got athleticism, you got a chip on the shoulder, you got a little cockiness. That's why Emmanuel Acho's comments are just so stupid and asinine. I mean, honestly, if you're Sanders, you're not paying any mind to that. Now you have a fresh start, and you're bringing in a guy that understands I'm giving you a fresh start. It's a good hire, but I understand why Jim Schwartz is pissed off, because a month ago, Jim Schwartz is probably walking around thinking it's my gig. Now, I still believe that the Cardinals are going to make a push for Schwartz if he wants the job. So to answer your question, I just think that, he probably felt misled. He probably felt misled and decided, I'm not gonna hang here anymore. I'm not, right? Sorry to say, Q, but I told you, I did say nobody cares about this game. I didn't say I didn't care about the game. What I said is there's no juice to the game. That's all I'm saying. Now, granted, you got the lull. We know that, right? Seahawks are Spurs adjacent with that business-like approach, and the Pats are the evil empire. NFL MVP is Matt Stafford for doing what he did at 39, 40. I think he's like 37, 38, whenever the heck he is. Honestly, Q, got to say your boy Slinging Sammy deserves a few votes for putting his team in the number 1 seed. Listen, it's down to Matt Stafford and Drake May. It's down to Matthew Stafford and Drake May. And I think Matthew Stafford is going to edge Drake May. And you're right, at 37 years of age, the numbers that he put up are astronomical. They really are. But it is the NFL MVP. It's weird. It is. It's weird because you're talking about, all right, let's just say for a second, if you go by NFL honors, right? The MVP candidates, it's two. It's Stafford, it's May. And I think the divide is this. I'm voting for Matthew Stafford because he's been consistently good. So I'm going to give him the edge. The counter argument or the pro May argument is, well, hold on a second. Listen, he had a really good rookie season, and now look what he's done in year number 2. Now, where I think the more compelling debate is not about the MVP. I think it's the coach of the year because I can make a case for 6, 7 different head coaches. To me, I think that's going to be an interesting battle. I really do. Because you have really good. Now, a lot of people are looking already at Mike Macdonald because of what he did with Seattle, the defense, Sam Darnold. Can you make a case for Ben Johnson? Yeah. Can you make a case for Liam Cohen? Yeah. Can you make a case for Sean Payton? Yes. Yeah, you can. Can you make another case for Sean McVay? Yeah, you can. You most certainly can. So what are we looking at here on face value? We're looking at a guy. I think what strengthens McDonald's case is that nobody thought Sam Darnold was going to have success this year in Seattle. Nobody thought Sam Darnold was going to duplicate what he did last year with Minnesota. Now, I'm not talking about ranking or grading them right as it stands. I'm not. But I'm saying I think there's a more of a debate argument conversation about coach of the year than MVP. I ultimately think Matthew Stafford is going to win the award, and I think Matthew Stafford is deserving of the award. But hell, man, Drake May made it very interesting. And if Christian McCaffrey would have put up a couple more stats here and there, you look at his overall season, I think you throw him into the mix. To Vince's point, yeah, I think you also have to mention, right? Sam Darnold. Why not? Why not? You have to. You have to. You have to. You have to. What do we got here? Let's see what else. Sal chimes in, Ravens fan. Q, I'm actually pissed. I like to hire Minter, but I'm pissed off that Monken's no longer the offensive coordinator. Do you think Lamar regresses? No, I think Lamar Jackson is going to be fine. Lamar Jackson, he's a talented quarterback. Their issues are on the defensive side of the ball, right? They give up way too much on the ground. Lamar's going to be fine. And now you're bringing in a fresher guy, fresher set of eyes in Jesse Minter. My man, Money Mike, Pots and Pans, 718. Ravens just hired Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle as their OC. That is a random hire. There was a little buzz there. I know exactly what the Bears are doing. They're smart. They're smart, right? So, I'm sorry, what the Ravens are doing, pardon me. The Ravens are smart. I don't know why I said the Bears. The Ravens are smart. So, they saw the year that Caleb Williams had. Okay. And now you're talking about an assistant coach. Doyle was an assistant coach with the Bears. I like this move because I think now you look at what he was able to do with Caleb Williams, and more importantly, that offensive line did a hell of a job for the Bears. The tackles were pristine. They played brilliant. They kept that quarterback upright. Now you're bringing in a guy in Declan Doyle that is trying to accentuate all the strengths of a Lamar Jackson. He is a young, rising coaching prospect, and he can coach up a young quarterback. And I think with Lamar, all you're trying to do is keep him engaged. That's really it. I think I just, he doesn't have a ton of offensive play calling experience. I understand that. I get it. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge because Lamar Jackson's now had 4 offensive coordinators in 9 years. But hell, Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl in every single season of his life. He's had a different offensive coordinator. But I like this. And I, you go back, this guy trying to grind through it, right? Play calling with the Broncos, tight end coach, Saints offensive assistant. To me, I think this is kind of a sneaky hire. I think Baltimore, as much as we want to sit there and say they're going to be a run first, I mean, Jesse Minter, handpicking this guy, I think they want to sling it. I think you've got a 2-time MVP, you got an NFL rushing champ, you got a 2-time Pro Bowl pass catcher in Flowers, you've got a very good tight end, you got players, man. You got players. Like I told you this a couple of days ago. Look at Baltimore coming out of the AFC North. As long as they figure out what the hell they're going to do with that defense, they're going to be fine. But I like this hire. Now, if you want to sit there and say, what does that mean for, some of these other teams? Well, I mean, look, I know exactly what the Giants are doing too. The Giants are kind of being sneaky, right? Because the Giants kept interviewing. See, the Giants actually forced the Philadelphia Eagles' hand a little bit. Because if you go back, the Giants interviewed Jim Bob Cooter, right? So he interviewed with the Giants, and he had 2 rounds of interviews with the Eagles for their offensive coordinator role. What did the Giants do? The Giants are selling who? John Harbaugh. That's what they're doing. They're selling John Harbaugh. And now, hey, man, we want to bring you back in. Another round. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. This is what we want to do. We want to bring you back in. I think ultimately, like I said, Jim Bob Cooter, I mentioned Davis Webb, you got Alex Tanney. And that's what happens now. The Giants are being sneaky. They're being sneaky because the Eagles now already have their OC. So now you got JBC, and he's looking around saying, well, do I want to play around with Jackson Dart? Yeah, hell, why not? Why not? I got some toys on that offense. Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm sorry, Mike, I misread your comment, but what you said is 100% correct. You said the Ravens. I don't know why I said the Bears. Let me see. In the Fowler interview, he said the Browns basically said Schwartz has no leverage, and the Browns are playing chicken, thinking if he quits and looks bad, and takes away any chance of coaching again. Now, I listened to actually Tom Pelissero talking a little bit about it. He was a 180. He basically said that the Browns never intended to offer him the job, but he felt misled, and it's one of the reasons he left. Now, look, he's under contract. Even if he leaves, he is holding the cards. He can leave. It doesn't matter. What the hell does he care at this point of his career? Pierce, seriously, right? That's it's just it. He knows that you have to look at the body of work. You have to look and say, well, he did a hell of a job as defensive coordinator. That's got to count for something. So he kept them relevant. He did. He kept that team a competitive team because they struggled on the offensive side of the ball, which is a fact. We can't dispute that. Defensively, what they have, a top 10, top 15 defense, they had a hell of a defense that kept them in game. So his stock, we already know what he does as a defensive coordinator. So he felt, give me the reins. And that's not the case. Jim Schwartz, listen, he at this point, if he wants to coach, he can coach, right? But he is an elite defensive coordinator, and he felt he got snubbed by the Browns. And the Browns, it might bite him in the ass. Now, the problem is you can't have a tantrum, but that's what he does. He's a volatile, immature guy, but he's a hell of a defensive coordinator. Apparently, there was like one Coke can, and he grabbed in whatever it is, clean out the locker. Here we go. But now you can't act like that because your options do get a little limited. So I think Arizona is going to come calling. I would have loved the Giants to hire him as defensive coordinator. Fine. But, listen, he's pissed. He's upset. Maybe he goes to San Francisco. Maybe he's the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, right? Because they got to replace Robert Salah, right? But again, the only way out of Cleveland is what? I got to retire. Because there's not a guarantee he's stepping foot back in that building under contract because he's salty. Kind of like Wink Martindale had a hissy fit. There's no way the Giants were going to want Martindale back in the building, even though they cleaned house, because he still butted heads with the GM. And I can't tell you, and I have, like I told you, I can share with you the guys that I know that are in Ohio, in Cleveland, about the whole dynamic with Stefanski and the GM and the quarterback room. And it was a cluster, man. It was a cluster from the get-go. It was a cluster from the get-go. So, you never want to speculate. But listen, Stefanski, I just never thought fully grasped his role as a head coach. I didn't think it was a comfortable fit because that quarterback room was overcrowded. And you had pressure from the fan base, pressure within the locker room. Start this guy, sit this guy, start this guy, sit that guy, start. It never works. It's like in the NHL. You got two goalies, you don't really have a goalie. They had four quarterbacks in that quarterback room, right? It's just a bad fit. And I think now you bring in a second set of eyes, a fresh set of eyes who, oh, by the way, has familiarity with the AFC North. And now you give those quarterbacks, whoever the hell it's going to be. And let's just say it's Shedeur Sanders to start the season, right? Or you bring in a quarterback to push him to start the season because you still have Watson under contract. You still have Gabriel. It's a fresh start all around. And that's what they needed. The last thing you want is a disgruntled employee when you are trying to have a fresh start. That's why I think the option right now for Schwartz is like, the hell with it. I'm going to retire. You don't have to pay me the rest of whatever you owe me contract-wise. Matt chimes in, Q, what direction do you think the Jets are going to go? I really can't stand this friggin' franchise. So what are we talking about? I already gave you my thoughts on Glenn. Do you want me to throw you you got to be friggin' kidding me, Q? I mean, I'll do it on a What the Frig Friday. What are the Jets lacking right now? Just need a quarterback. Now, Matt, don't get on me. The other Matt G, don't get on me. Jet Fan 6, don't get on me. I'm going to throw a name out there. And I have a feeling you guys are going to attack me, but that's okay. Who is about to get released or expected release? Kirk Cousins. Now, we know at this point of his career, Kirk Cousins, whose agent should be in the friggin' Hall of Fame, Kirk Cousins is a bridge quarterback. That's all he is. If you're the Jets and you're Aaron Glenn and you understand I can ill afford to have a 4-13 season, because I'm telling you right now, this is factual. They go 4-13 next season, Aaron Glenn will be fired. He is already on the hot seat for hiring an entire staff and then firing them. So they've had a debacle at the quarterback position for how many years now? It just hasn't worked out. It just hasn't. You want a bridge quarterback? Kirk Cousins is your guy. It's not sexy. It isn't, but it's an upgrade over Justin Fields. It's an upgrade over Brissett. It's an upgrade over whoever the hell you think you're going to have an opportunity to get. Listen, this kid Moore going back to college. Now all of a sudden, you got to look at it totally differently. We know Mendoza is going to be the top overall pick. I mean, I just don't. The Raiders are drafting Fernando Mendoza. I mean, it's just pencil it in. It's done. I don't even know, why do we have to sit him on the clock? Now that's the Jets, who have a boatload, by the way, of draft picks. They have a boatload. So now all of a sudden we can go defense. Maybe we go linebacker. Then maybe later on, in the first round, we go with a wide receiver. We go secondary in the second and third. They have a boatload of draft picks. Clean up the defense. Get another weapon for the quarterback. Or if you really want to make some noise because you have a ton of picks, then, you got 4 rounds worth of picks. If you wanted to make a splash and try to go for a big-time quarterback, whatever. So be it. But right now, you got a bridge. You got a bridge quarterback in Kirk Cousins, right? Again, a bridge. A bridge, a bridge, a bridge. And that can kind of solve your problems. Just for a season, because that's all bridge quarterback is. Sam Darnold was brought into Minnesota because everyone thought he was going to back up a rookie, and then the rookie tears up his knee, and look what happens with Sam Darnold. He has a career year with the Vikings, and he cashes in with Seattle, and he's a win away from winning the Super Bowl. Oh, by the way, the irony, Sam Darnold, who is a win away from winning the Super Bowl, right, just got a GM fired in Minnesota. Go figure. Go figure, because they dropped the ball. But if I'm the Jets, why not? Because Kirk Cousins is getting released. And I'm telling you, listen, you just think about this. Kirk Cousins, good looking guy, speaks well, stick him on TV. Maybe he wants to coach down the road. So now you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't know. He's still, I would argue Kirk Cousins, Captain Kirk, is still a viable option as a starter in the NFL. Is he not? So listen, sometimes, as crazy as it sounds, you have a building guy that maybe is that veteran quarterback that maybe turns around and he becomes that passing game coordinator, offensive coordinator, head coach down the road. You're kind of grooming him. It's just a thought. Just a thought. That's all I'm saying. I know you guys, I can see the comments coming in. You guys don't want to hear it. All right, I'm sorry. I thought we were going to have a good conversation today. I really did. I thought we were going to have a good conversation today. How about this? Vince wants to turn a little puck talk. Q, you brought up puck. How are the Florida Panthers, the best team in hockey, making a push for one of the best in NHL history of the three-peat injuries and all, and they just keep winning? They played well. Right? But, again, ultimately, like the NBA, it's a long season, right? It's a very, very, very long season. I'll tell you, the team to beat right now is Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is playing unbelievable hockey. Tampa Bay is playing really, really good hockey. Buffalo's playing good hockey. Buffalo, my Rangers stink. They've struggled this year. I think they're 22 and 27. I'll give the Flyers some credit. That's a young team. I know both those teams I just mentioned have dropped a couple. Colorado's playing really well. Vegas is playing. Colorado's actually playing really, really well. Even though they've dropped a bunch of games, I think they still have like 36 wins, which is crazy. But yeah, quietly, think about it, right? I mean, we talk about back-to-back, and then we talk about three-peats in sports. But as you know, as much as I know, the NHL, just like the NBA, it's an extremely long season. It really is. That would be a hell of a trick. Because we said, is Florida, remember when they won? Is Florida a, quote, hockey town? We had that argument last spring. We were talking about the Florida Panthers. Like a hockey town. Listen, you go back to back. That's great, right? And those Stanley Cups, those battles against Edmonton were fantastic. They go 7 games in 2024, epic. Then they go, 6 games in 2025? And the thing, what's unique about what the Florida Panthers did, they were the second team in the last 40 to go back to back. Imagine going back to back to back. It's so hard to do in sports. I think baseball, you can do it. In football, I don't see that happening. It's just so much. You lose your quarterback, you're done. But in baseball, we've seen it. We've seen, we've seen those 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, right? Now, in basketball, different eras, yes, when the Celtics were winning left and right, you go to the 80s, and this is just a remarkable, like, stat or side note. In the 1980s, so when Magic and Bird came into the league, 79, right? Michigan State beats Indiana State, the national championship, the game heard around the world, right? Magic Johnson beats Larry Bird, and then they're drafted. If you start from the 1980s and you go, obviously, 80, well, let me just follow me, right? Think about the participants that were in the finals in the decade. The Lakers were in the finals in 81, the Celtics in 80, I'm sorry, the Lakers in 80, because that's when Magic Johnson played center in game 6 and had like 40 something points. Celtics in 81, Lakers in 82, Lakers win the finals in 83, Sixers beat them. Lakers were in the finals in 84, Celtics beat them. Lakers were in the finals in 85. The Los Angeles Lakers, 82, 83, 84, 85, they were in the finals. 86, they were banged up, and then Ralph Sampson had that miracle in game 4 and shocked them in the Western Conference Finals. But oh, by the way, Boston was in the finals. The following year, Lakers Boston, Lakers Celtics, Lakers Pistons, Lakers Pistons, and then you go to 90, and obviously it was Portland and Detroit. But from 80 to 89 in the NBA Finals, it was either the Lakers and or the Boston Celtics, which was crazy. So the Lakers basically had an opportunity to go back to back to back. The Lakers had a chance to three-peat. The Lakers had multiple chances. So they win in 87, they win in 88, they lost in 89 to the Detroit Pistons, the bad boys. 82 they win, but they lost to the Sixers in 83, and then the Celtics in 84. But to Vince's point, for a team like the Florida Panthers to go back to back to back, that's ridiculous. That's unheard of. To three-peat in any sport is so hard. It really is. And, no NFL team has won 3 consecutive Super Bowls. You're talking modern era, 67 to present. Green Bay Packers, 65, 66, 67. But again, we're talking, three-peat is such a hard thing to do. It's so difficult. The Steelers in the 70s couldn't do it. The Cowboys in the 90s couldn't do it. The Patriots in the 2000 couldn't do it. The closest team was Kansas City. Kansas City, 2023, 2024, and whoops, stub your toe. Yeah, it's three-peating is so difficult. It's so rare. You got to be a special breed, a special talent. Tom Summers Point chimes in. Q, hands down, it got to be Matthew Stafford. You mentioned consistency. He's been a model of consistency. I throw away a couple of the bad games, especially the Panthers game. He's my MVP. Pats fan 6 chimes in. Q, it's got to be Drake May. Look at the ascension from year number 1 to year number 2. Yeah, but I don't know how much stock do you put into that? Like, how much stock do you put into the quarterback's growth year number 1, year number 2? That's typically, we always talk about that, right? Come on. Jim turns around. Q, I'm laughing my ass off. No, Sam Darnold did not get the GM fired. I'm just saying. It was a boneheaded decision, right? Not to fire him. I'm sorry, not to sign Sam Darnold. Nobody believes in Darnold. DP chimes in. Q, I'm not going to sit there and say it's not a sexy game, but let's just be honest. These are two teams. Yeah, I get it. Unless you're a Patriots fan and or a Seattle fan, you don't have a dog in the hunt. You don't have a dog in the fight, right? I understand that. But you're still going to watch, right? You're still going to watch. Devin chimes in. Q, I actually think the Eagles are going to be more of a run-heavy first team, and that's fine with me. Offense, be careful now. Offensive line getting a little older. Saquon getting a little longer in the tooth, right? But I do like the hire. I do like the moves. 100%. I do. All right, got a couple to play with. Quick timeout. We'll close things out on a Friday. All right, fast forward to 5. Couple more comments, and we'll clean it out on a Friday edition on Q. Joe D chimes in Q. I like both moves respectively, but you're right. At the end of the day, it does put a bullseye on Nick Sirianni's back. I think it does. I really do. I think it puts a unwanted bullseye on his back. We'll talk more about this on Monday's show. Glenn Irby covers the Ravens, and he also covers the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going to join us in the 4 o'clock hour, Lloyd in the 5 o'clock hour, Costco later on the week, Jonathan Marshall. We want to talk some NBA, Steve Gardner. We want to get into a little hot stove baseball as well. And then we blink, right? And we're going to have the Super Bowl. The NFL season goes so fast. It gets depressing, does it not? It does. Monday Marcus chimes in. Q, in my estimation, it's got to be Matthew Stafford. His numbers are just absolutely off the chart. You can't take away what Drake May did, but Stafford to me is clearly head and shoulders the MVP. Could be, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Oh, you know what? We got John Bueller. I forgot it's a Friday. You know what? We'll squeeze him on for a couple minutes. We are about to close out because of our short show today, but that's okay. We got our guy. We can fire him off a little bit. We double up and get him on Monday. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Let me fire him up and bring him on board. We can talk about some of these changes. This is what happens. My sleep patterns are absolutely just on another level, to be quite honest with you. As I'm talking to myself, I'm going to bring in John in a second. And I know that we'll have about 15 or so, but my sleep patterns, as we welcome in my guy from Fansided, John Bueller. Appreciate it, pal. I totally forgot today's a Friday, even though I know it's a Friday, but I do my overseas broadcast. And I was like, oh, well, maybe we'll shorten up the show. And then you, like Johnny on the spot, you jump in, and that's okay with us. How are you, my friend?
Pretty good. Worked an abbreviated day myself, so
Good.
I got to be outside when it was light outside, so that's great.
Yeah. How's the weather out where you are?
It's decent right now, but like we're supposed to get like really cold weather here tomorrow, so it might snow. Kind of been cooped up here last couple of weeks. It's not been great.
Yeah, no, that's not good at all. I can't stand the cold weather. We got hit with our snow, and it was almost going to be an week for me because I had jury duty
Oh man.
2 months ago, but they postponed it, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, all right. So, and again, I mean, they're not sitting there listening into the show, but when you have to in Jersey, when you refill it out, um, chances are very slim that you're called, especially if you quote are self-employed. Well, obviously, I do a lot of my freelance work, but I somehow slivered in there, which I am. We talk about accredited member of the media, and that kind of scares a lot of people off. So I got the alert today because it was supposed to be Monday. Oh my friggin' man up Monday. Super Bowl week on a Monday, and I got to sit there and decide who's friggin' getting a traffic ticket or not. Absolutely not. So let's just say I was very excited. And by the way, nothing you can do about it now because they can't tag me for another 3 years. And another little thing off the record, I don't plan to be here in 3 years in Jersey. So, yes, I escaped that. So I'm happy. All right. NFL, we're a week away from the Super Bowl. Let me ask you right now, why is there zero buzz to this game?
I just don't think the matchup's really compelling. Unfortunately, we've seen what Patriots Seahawks like 12 years ago with like they couldn't get the ball in from the 1 yard line with the
Marshawn Lynch,
Seahawks.
Malcolm
Yeah,
Butler.
yeah, it's the Patriots fatigue. It's like I know they were terrible, but now they're back, and I do kind of wish if it would have been like somebody like Buffalo or literally anybody but the Chiefs or the Patriots out of the AFC, it'd be a little more compelling. Look, I saw a stat somewhere that Seattle has been to the NFC, has been to the Super Bowl out of the NFC more than anybody this century, which is kind of a shock because this is their fourth time going. But
Right.
the AFC, it's just mostly just Chiefs and Patriots, and that's probably contributing to it a little bit.
I tend to agree, and I also think as we get closer to this game, my initial thought is that Seattle's going to blow them out.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really like. I just feel like it's just defensively they're going to shut down the Patriots, and Darnold's he's going to have a career day. He might be MVP. I don't know, but I'm trying to find some silver lining in this game, and I just want a competitive game. But to me, the storyline is, hey, you got a young quarterback in Drake May, and then obviously got Sam Darnold, who can really put to rest and bed the narrative that he's a choke artist and he can't win the big game.
Yeah, it's really going to come down to quarterback play and coaching. You're kind of wondering, like, okay, you're at this big stage. This is untrodden territory for both Darnold and May. We'll see how they really do with the brightest of lights. This is a huge opportunity for Mike McDonald. He's never been on anything quite like this. Maybe when he was at Michigan a little bit, but Vrabel's played in a bunch of Super Bowls back in the day. So
Mhm.
like maybe that'll help them. Maybe that'll kind of make it a more competitive game than we anticipate. But we kind of feel like whoever won between the Seahawks Rams, that was kind of the team that was going to win the Super Bowl.
Which I'm glad you brought that up. MVP, obviously we'll find out this weekend. I was trying to make a case for and against for May and Matthew Stafford. I even threw obviously Christian McCaffrey's name out there, but ultimately, um, is it Matthew Stafford's award?
I would say so. I feel like this is kind of like the cherry on top to like a Hall of Fame career for him, where like it cements it, no doubt. I think really the big thing is, again, I'm kind of more of a narrative guy than stats in general. That's just how I am as a writer. But you look at like who the Patriots beat this year, like everybody they played got fired,
Horrible.
like just terrible. And I mean, this is the consequence of playing a fourth place schedule. But you got to play who you play, and you took advantage of that.
Of
Drake
course.
May has plenty of opportunities to win MVP, whereas Stafford's like what 37, 38. Like how many more years does he have at this level? This is his last best opportunity here, and the division was way tougher there in the NFC West with both Seattle and San Francisco also making the playoffs. I mean, Arizona was dog water, but I've probably been leaning Stafford kind of for ever since the Colts just completely hit the fan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there were a couple of um, you know candidates that we can have thrown out there. How about Minnesota making a change at the GM? I kind of joked that Sam Darnold's a win away from the Super Bowl, and oh, by the way, you just cost the GM his job. I mean, I didn't think this was shocking, to be quite honest. I think a lot of that staff was on the hot seat, especially the GM when they decided to not sign Darnold.
Yeah, look, anybody who's read my writing, and when I was predominantly writing about the NFL over the last couple of years, knows that I was not a fan of Kwesei Adofo-Mensah at all. I kind of always equated him to being like, oh, we've labeled him as gifted, but in reality, he's just a kid with a bunch of ADD blowing up Mentos and Diet Coke in the parking lot. I just feel like they put him on this pedestal so early on. I think he drafted terribly, and then you made like a horrendous decision at quarterback, not just letting Darnold go. Because I mean, again, we kind of thought maybe that was kind of more of a career year. That's proven not to be the case. But McCarthy can't play. McCarthy can't do this. And more importantly, like the draft decisions that Adofo-Mensah did
Bad.
has hurt Kevin O'Connell, which we thought he had like an impenetrable, I don't know if legacy, but like he was so well thought of, and Adolfo like hurt him. I think the timing of it all is weird because my Atlanta Falcons just hired Ian Cunningham last night, so this is now a new GM opening. It does look like the cap guy Brzezinski is going to be kind of doing this through the draft in Minnesota, but yeah, timing of it all is weird for sure.
Your Falcons. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion they're going to release Kirk Cousins. Yes.
Yeah, the cap situation indicates it's as such. During Stefanski's intro presser, he didn't really talk much about guys who may or may not be on the team, like guys who are definitely under contract. He talked about whether that's Pittix, whether that's Bijan Robinson. But
Mhm.
if you cut Kirk Cousins, you save like 30, 40 million. You don't have to put anything on. There's nothing guaranteed for 27. Look, I know Stefanski and Cousins worked together in Minnesota back in the day, but if Cousins is going to come back, he'd have to kind of come at like a lesser deal. I think there's a pretty good possibility that Cousins goes to the Jets.
I. It's exactly what I was saying. It's a bridge quarterback, and again, he's a guy that when he retires, he's probably going to want to maybe coach a little bit. How about the Eagles? And they finally land an offensive coordinator plus a passing game coordinator, if you will. I like the moves. I guess my only pushback would be that Nick Sirianni, again, you're hiring guys with limited experience. To me, that's inadvertently maybe putting a bullseye on Nick Sirianni's back if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, you're just churning through offensive play callers year after year after year. This is not helping Jalen Hurts at all. Although I do really think very highly of Sean Mannion. I mean, this is a guy who's been in the league, former college star, kind of in this sort of realm. It'd be interesting to see what he decides to do here. But yeah, you're right though. Like if this doesn't work out, then Sirianni's gonna have to wait.
Yeah, I think he's already again, on the hot seat. All right, everyone, listen, the last couple of days, we've all been up in arms, right? The Hall of Fame and Bill Belichick and the rationale not voting Belichick in, voting Belichick in. To me, I think it's absolutely ludicrous. I think ultimately it's just petty. I also think it's Spygate, Deflategate. We don't like the hoodie. Too much success. Oh, by the way, he's hanging around. What's he doing? He's dating a young girl, and he's got all the money in the world, and he's the greatest of all time. And I just think it's the pettiness of some of these voters, and I think some of their logic or justification makes zero sense to me. Now I understand Mike Sando broke it down perfectly about the Veterans Committee and some of these guys, but how do you not have Belichick? He's getting in, but how do you not have Belichick in the Hall of Fame the first time around? Makes no sense to me.
Look, I understand the guy's not well liked at all, but I will say this: he's the greatest head coach in NFL history. I don't think there's anybody in the football world who's more passionate about the history of the game than Bill Belichick. This is a complete slap in the face, and really, like, again, I don't really trust or like most Hall of Fame voters. I think that they have gigantic egos the size of the sun, bigger than Jerry Jones.
And
One thing
narrative, they want to push narrative in their own agenda.
Look, I think it's cool that you've got like a voter representing effectively each team. I think that's great, but we got to get more people who are in the Hall of Fame on the voting committee. Like Dan Fouts and James Lofton are the only Hall of Famers who have to like navigate this. And it's just like, look, they're the people welcoming in their brethren, they're brothers here. And I feel like they're not going to be petty about it. We got to have like look at baseball when a guy doesn't get in on the first team ballots, the veterans committee comes in and kind of saves him. It's like, okay, maybe we overlooked said player. This guy probably needs to be here. But I just people getting on their high horses about all this, thinking that like they can like dock Belichick is just it's ludicrous. He should have gotten in. It'll be interesting to see who does make it in though.
I mean, look, I pretty much have said, I'm an Eli guy. I think Eli belongs in the Hall of Fame. Like I threw quarterbacks with lesser. careers, and I get it, they're different eras. I think he eventually gets in, but it's also that I think what hurts him is played with the Giants, Peyton Manning's brother in New York, in the market, big time runs, just two of them. But yet, you're not going to tell the history of the NFL without number 10. It just, I feel as though there's sometimes, like you said, there's this perception and bias against certain players.
Look, Eli's going to get in. There's a handful of quarterbacks who are going to get in. We just know like they've done enough. They've crossed that threshold here. I used to always call it the Ken Anderson line. Are you better or as good or better than Ken Anderson? Hopefully he gets in this weekend. That'd be completely long
I brought up a
overdue.
stat yesterday. I was talking about Kenny Anderson in that 81 season, and people were
Yeah,
like arguing with me. I'm like, you have to understand the game was different back then.
yeah.
Just like when Roger Staubach started to go in the shotgun and throws for 20 touchdowns, right? And he lost 4 years of his career with the Naval Academy. So different eras. I think we do get caught up, like you said, with all the stats.
Yeah, it's I think Eli's a guy that's like going to get it eventually. He wasn't going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and that's okay. There was a time there where there was a log jam at wide receiver where people like Chris Carter had to wait an absurdly long time. I'm like, this was one of the best pure catchers of the football I've ever seen growing up. Like it's kind of a consequence of like you can only induct 5 players in a given year. You get a coach, a contributor, but like it's 5. Last year was only 4, so some guys have to wait. Like Torrey Holtz had to wait a long time. Fred Taylor is not even in yet. Like these are some of the most awesome players I saw growing up in the '90s and 2000s. So
But do
hopefully
you
we.
do you
Go ahead.
believe in the argument? Well, if you have to ask if he's a Hall of Famer, he's not a Hall of Famer.
It depends. I think it's different. Like if you're an excellent player on a really bad franchise, you have to overcome a lot. And I think that you could probably give them a kind of push there. Whereas like a guy who was only so good but like won a lot of championships because he was mostly just on the field with other greatness, I tend to kind of push back on that for me. But look, it's a museum. I think you should be able to celebrate the sport. This may be somebody's guy who's just not being let in. So again, I'm not a voter. I don't want to be a voter, but like I kind of feel like, the more the merrier, but like give it time, give it the proper time for who gets to win. Like some guys are first ballot, some guys are not. Some guys have to get in with veterans. That's kind of how I've been.
And then lastly, the Giants are still trying to pin down an offensive coordinator. It does look like they're going to interview Cliff Kingsbury as well. Jimmy Bob, JVC's out there also. So you got a couple of Alex Tanney, Davis Webb. I mean, right now, when it's all said and done, what direction do you think the Giants go when it comes to offensive coordinator?
That's a really tough one because like I thought it was going to be Todd Monken for the whole
So did I.
time. Yeah. And obviously he's got to take the job with Cleveland because he's not going to get another head coaching opportunity in his career. He doesn't last anywhere longer than like 3 years. That's just kind of what it is with Todd Monken. But I think if you are John Harbaugh, you got to get some guy who is like, you know, like a force because you're a special teams guy. Honestly, I wouldn't hate getting Cliff Kingsbury. You make Washington worse. This is a guy who's probably going to get another opportunity to be a head coach. Frankly, if Arizona wasn't so screwed, they'd probably just hire him right now to be their head coach again.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, I think Jim Schwartz might be a name if he decides to retire with Cleveland, because of what just transpired and he goes to Arizona, right? I mean, he did a hell of a job defensively with Cleveland. He felt slighted. I know he's a volatile guy, but, you know, um, yeah, it's just, it is interesting how everything kind of lays out. I do want to ask you before I let you get out of here. Did you hear Emmanuel Acho's comments regarding Shador Sanders?
Um, I unfortunately did, and I'm just like, that guy will say anything. The guy will say anything. Look, if you go in there, you got to respect your coach. You're
That's
not above. You're
exactly
not
the whole
above.
point. But you're a former player. Why are you doing that? Like you're already putting him behind the eight ball.
I don't understand. Like you're the Browns. You all got to come together to try to overcome being the Browns. Maybe this isn't what you wanted. I mean, wait, what you want his dad to come coach the team? You want him to come over from Colorado? I don't know how good Coach Prime is doing right now physically, but like Shedeur Sanders is not above whoever the head coach with the Browns is.
No.
He was a 5th round pick. He's a Pro Bowler though, but Not that that really means anything, but I was. It's shocking to hear, but it's not shocking that it came from Acho.
Albert Breer is tweeting out that Ron Rivera, former Commanders and Panthers head coach, interviewed for the Cardinals head coaching vacancy. Wow.
Yeah, my Minute Media colleagues kind of been all over this and everything like that. Maybe that is very interesting. Right now, I think Rivera's back at his alma mater of Cal. He's kind of like the GM of football. He's the kind of guy who brought in Tosh Lapoy from Oregon. He's a legend at Cal. I would probably just stay there and see what you can do. But maybe he didn't like how it ended there with Washington. He's one of the greatest head coaches in Carolina Panthers history.
Sure.
The guy can really coach, and it does kind of seem as though Arizona's probably leaning defense.
Right.
Whether that would be, you mentioned Schwartz. I know Raheem Morris has kind of been in the mix. Vance Joseph. I think they were looking really hard at Campanelle from Jacksonville. So if Ron Rivera wants to kind of go in there and try to finish his coaching career on a somewhat high note, I wouldn't blame him. But you got a pretty good gig at Cal right now.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It's the NFL cycle never sleeps and never stops. Super Bowl is next weekend. We get the low, but we'll have NFL honors if you guys are interested in that. What do you have going on this weekend? Fan site and all the podcasts and the content.
Obviously going to be reacting next week with Ian Cunningham being hired as the general manager. We're going to pair him with Matt Ryan and Kevin Stefanski atop the Atlanta Falcons, and hopefully we can get back to the playoffs before I turn 40. That'd be great. I mean, I'm 36 now. That'd be wonderful. And in the college sort of thing, I guess we're kind of looking at just kind of the heart of the off season.
Yeah.
My colleague Cody Williams is going to be at the Super Bowl covering it, so I'm
Nice.
flying Solo Like a Cup, just doing whatever it is. Got to figure out a couple of shows here and there, but spring practice isn't that far away, and we're kind of getting our feel for what last year was, what this year is. Transfer portal was weird, but plenty of things to talk about. Got to keep ourselves entertained out there, man.
Yes. Yes, you absolutely do. But we'll look out for the work as always in the podcast. Great stuff. I'm glad actually you snuck on for a little bit on a Friday. And we'll be, full strength again next week. We'll do a lot more with the Super Bowl. We'll kind of recap what goes on this weekend in the world of sports. Got to start looking ahead too. Dive into a little hot stove baseball with you as well. Get your thoughts on what's going on in the off season. But I always greatly appreciate you jumping on board. Stay warm out there, a little hot toddy, and certainly enjoy the weekend, brother.
All right, you do the same. Catch you next week.
All right, there you have it. My guy, John Bueller. Good stuff. All right, we got to start wrapping it up. Don't forget, as always, you can hang with us on X, TikTok, the YouTube channel, as well as what do we got? Millions. We're on that platform as well. And as I mentioned, you guys keep the likes, the comments, everything coming. We got to take our final time out. We got to get in a live read. We'll do that in about 30, a couple more comments, and then we'll close things out on a Football Friday edition of On Q. All right, wrapping it up. Don't forget, like I said, if you can't sleep and you are bored at 1:00 in the morning, check out Warriors Thailand. I'll be on the call 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. So, little cat nap coming up. Appreciate all the comments, John Bueller. Full slate of guests next weekend, Super Bowl week. A lot to discuss. You guys are fantastic. Everyone have a wonderful sports weekend. If you're out and about, of course, as always, be safe, be sound. We will talk to you on Monday, 4 to 6 on a Monday edition of On Q. Keep subscribing to the YouTube channel. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate the love. You guys are sharing the shows as well. You guys are interacting and you guys are liking what you see. And that's all that we can ask for. And we greatly, greatly appreciate you guys keeping us tuned in Monday to Friday with On Q right here on SR 1029 FM The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network, AUDACY app, and my YouTube channel. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Have a wonderful sports weekend. We'll be back in the saddle on a Mentioso Manolo Lunes Loco de Radio Man Up Monday edition of On Q. Until then, I'm Rich Quinones. Hasta luego, my dia.